It's NeuroArcus here, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm diving into the massive news for anyone following ArcheAge Chronicles. The team at XLGames just dropped this huge interview with the MassivelyOP, answering a ton of questions we all had since the game was rebranded from ArcheAge 2. They cover everything from the game's genre and housing to the future of PvP and the leadership vision now that Shake Song is departed. I've gone through the entire interview and we're going to break down all the key takeaways. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's get right into it. Alright, first up, the big one, the genre. XLGames is making it very clear that they do not consider ArcheAge Chronicles to be a traditional MMORPG. Instead, they're calling it an exploration-driven action RPG that has an online element like trading and housing. Their goal seems to be focused on the narrative and content for solo players and small groups, with kind of multiplayer content being optional. They actually compare it to a hybrid of games like Breath of the Wild and original ArcheAge, which is a pretty fascinating combination to me. As for the player count, they're still finalizing numbers. They said you can expect to encounter dozens of other players and not like thousands, depending on the zone you're in. Now, I kind of understand that this is gonna make a lot of the OG ArcheAge players kind of disappointed to hear that the game is probably not gonna be anything like the first game. And I would be lying if I said that I wasn't a little bit disappointed too, but I kind of understand what they're doing here. Like, if you're following a lot of them where the MMOs are going, they're basically turning into like action RPGs at this point, like especially because they're trying to pull the console people into this game. So it definitely makes sense why they're doing this. It's gonna be disappointing to a lot of the PC MMORPG players, but they're trying to go for the broader audience here. And even though I say it makes sense, I'm still a little bit disappointed myself. So they're calling it like a hybrid of these big games. What exactly they're talking about? The developers pointed out some huge names as an inspiration for the open world exploration, environmental storytelling, and solo progression. They're looking at giants like Breath of the Wild, The Witcher 3, and even Elden Ring. They want the world to feel handcrafted and for exploration itself to be the reward. But they were pretty quick to say that the game absolutely builds on the DNA of the original ArcheAge. They're drawing heavily from its famous system-driven design. This means housing, trade routes, life skills, and the player economy are all coming back, but they are being reimagined to better support both solo and social play. They also mentioned being very aware of the pitfalls of the MMORPGs, like feature bloat and heavy grinding, stating their goal is to create a living online game, not a time sink. Again, I just get the feeling when they talk about this game that they're really going hardcore on the console people. Like they're building a console game first and then PC players are kind of the secondary here, but hopefully I'm wrong with that. That's just kind of the vibe I'm getting, the way they're answering all these questions. But I'm happy to see that the housing is going to be back, the trade routes, the life skills, the player economy, some of those like core things in the first ArcheAge, even if a lot of the kind of player dynamics are going to be removed, but at least some of it's going to make a comeback, so that's somewhat exciting, I guess. The next point is actually really interesting. It ties directly into their not a time sink philosophy. They talk about the ideal gameplay loop, specifically catering to players who might only have 30 minutes to play. They want to move away from the typical MMO loop where you log in and feel pressured to complete a checklist of daily quests or struggle to find a party to get anything meaningful done. Instead, in ArcheAge Chronicles, a short session still will allow you to make progress on your own personal journey, whether that exploring a bit, a new region, leveling up a craft, or finding a piece of lore. It will all feel like meaningful progress. Multiplayer is there if you want it, but it's not forced on you. So this is one of those things I'm actually quite curious to see how they plan on doing it, because to me, one of the biggest things I hate in the current MMORPGs is the checklist of daily quests and feeling kind of forced to log in every day. I absolutely hate that. It just makes me quit games left and right. So I really want to see how they plan on creating like this kind of loop where you can also get something done in 30 minutes. It definitely sounds some kind of a console mobile feature, but if there's nothing else interesting about this game, this is something I want to see how they do it, just out of curiosity. I think they're really trying to avoid the game feeling like a second job, and you just kind of want to log in because you actually want to log into the game, not because there's some list you want to do. We'll definitely see how that's going to work out. Then they talk about the system that's really near and dear for every ArcheAge fan, the housing system. It's pretty much confirmed that the system is not going to be fully open world like the original one, but it's also not purely instance like the Elder Scrolls or New World. They're using a hybrid channel-based system. The best way to think about it is like the neighborhood system in Lord of the Rings or in World of Warcraft, but with more players present. The housing zones exist in the world, but each zone has a multiple parallel versions or channels. When you claim a home in a channel, it becomes your persistent space with your neighbors in the same channel. This allows for social interactions, decorating, community building, without the infamous land rush and the server performance issues of the original system. The thing about this is that when you ask people some of the best features of ArcheAge, the housing is like the top of the list. So I feel like this is going to be quite divisive, especially the people who play a lot of the original ArcheAge. Because the beauty of it was the fact that your house was actually in the open world, and that was so cool. But then again, I think this system doesn't sound too bad. I haven't actually seen the neighborhood system in Lord of the Rings Online or World of Warcraft, so I'm not sure how that works, but as long as you are kind of able to build like a guild town or something, I'm completely fine with this. Because I do think the reality is that the original ArcheAge system was really fun for the people who got like a good housing spot. But then all the rest of the people that either didn't get a housing place or got like a terrible spot, they weren't having so much fun with it. So it is a bit of a double-edged sword in that sense, but I am curious to see how this works. Next up, there was some talk about life skills and the economy. For all the aspiring traders, farmers, and crafters out there, the developers had some reassuring words. They confirmed that the life skills are not just an add-on, they're absolutely central to ArcheAge Chronicles. The systems like farming, crafting, gathering, and trading are part of the core gameplay loop. While they weren't ready to give a full list of every single trade skill, they emphasized that the systems are being designed with the depth and long-term sustainability in mind. The goal is to provide real, rewarding progression path for players who want to build their legacy outside of combat. This is one of those things I'm kind of hoping that it's an optional thing. The way they word it, I don't think it's gonna be, but we'll see. I know a lot of people like this kind of a life skilling activity. At least my time with like BDO, there's actually guilds that are purely focused on like life skilling, so I feel like a lot of people are going to be happy to hear that these going to be the central part of the game. To me personally, I don't really like life skilling too much, so I'm kind of hopeful that they're not forced on you and it's kind of an optional route you can take. But the way they word it, I kind of get the feeling that we're all going to be forced to do some life skilling. I hope not, but we'll see. Of course, we can't talk about ArcheAge without talking about the PvP. The original was famous for its open world conflicts and massive wars. In ArcheAge Chronicles, there's gonna be some massive changes to this. The developers stated clearly that the PvP does exist. It is no longer the centerpiece of the experience. There won't be return to the massive faction wars or open world ganking zones of the first game. Instead, PvP will be a much smaller, more focused part of the game. They mention it will be available in more structured or opt-in way. This is a deliberate shift to support broader audience and make the world less intimidating for players who don't want to constantly look over their shoulder. This is going to be the point where most of the people who enjoyed the first game are going to kind of drop out and not care about this game anymore, because it was pretty much the main reason why you would play the ArcheAge was the PvP, the open world PvP, and basically they're removing that from the game. They're gonna make it more structured. It's gonna be kind of an optional experience in this game, and it does make sense for the console, obviously, but I know people are gonna hate it. So I feel like this should be the final clue for people that this game is not gonna be anything like the first ArcheAge. It's gonna be a completely separate game, completely different gameplay loop to the first game, and if you're expecting this game to be like the first game, you're gonna be massively disappointed. And finally, the question everyone asks, when is it going to be coming out? They pretty much confirmed they are still aiming for the release in the first half of 2026, but they rightly added a caveat that they will do what's best for the game and adjust the date based on the testing feedback, which I'm always glad to hear, because I don't want to see games rushed out. I'd rather take them their time and release when it's in a good spot. That's my opinion when it comes to game releases, and it seems like they're going to be doing that. So we might be seeing it in 2026, but I'm not going to be holding my breath for that. So there you have it, a complete breakdown of this massive interview. It seems like XLGames is being very deliberate with ArcheAge Chronicles, aiming to capture the spirit of the original's freedom while packaging it in like more modern, accessible, narrative-driven experience. Let me know what you think about ArcheAge Chronicles and all this new information in the comments below. I know this interview is probably gonna make a lot of the original ArcheAge players to kind of drop out from the game and not really care about it, but It's a new MMORPG, so most people are gonna jump on it anyway, have a couple months of fun, and then move on to the next. But yeah, thanks for watching. Give this video a like if you find it helpful. Subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.